I'm wondering if you take umbrage, first of all, with my statement, my introduction, that there has not really been a focus on Indigenous issues in this campaign. Do you agree or not?
I have to agree, and I've heard from many regular Canadians that they do want. Sorry, my sister's dog is making all these strange noises, and he may. But in any case, yeah, I've heard from regular Canadians that they really want to hear more about the plans for each of these parties on reconciliation, that it is an important issue to them, and it is something that will certainly affect their vote. And so I think in these last days of the campaign, it's really important for all the parties to be addressing these very difficult and complex issues. And I think that's part of the reason why we're not seeing a lot of the issues being addressed, is because these are complicated issues. They don't have a very simple answer to them. They are long-standing issues. So, for example, when you think about the recovery of our little children from unmarked graves across Turtle Island, that's a very hard issue to deal with in terms of finding solutions and the path forward, because it's about healing. And that's why we called our document The Healing Path Forward, because healing is not a straight trajectory. It's complicated, it's back and forth. And I think sometimes when you go into a campaign for, for Canadian campaigns, you want to stick to easier issues, or issues where you can talk easily about solutions.
But you know what, Chief, after the discovery of those unmarked graves at multiple former residential school sites, I got a sense as a journalist there was so much emotion in this country about those stories. There was people were aghast, people wanted change, and then party leaders started talking about change, and then it kind of fell off the deep end. Where did it go?
I believe that the issue is not off the deep end, but it certainly is difficult for everyone to digest. I mean, what we're dealing with when we talk about the recovery of these little children, innocent children who were subject to genocide, by the way, this is now Canadians now have to shift. They have to take the myth of Canada and start to deal with the truth of Canada, that Canada is built upon genocide, and that our children were the victims of this, particularly thousands and thousands of them. So having to come to terms with that, it's almost like we're in a grieving process. So when something is taken from us, like a myth of what Canada is, that Canada is this great, amazing country, when that myth is ripped from us, then we have to, first of all, we go through all the phases of grief: shock, denial, sadness. There are many stages that we're going to go through together as a country. And what's most important, I think, is that we stay together, that we continue to look at every time there is an announcement of more children found, that we find ways to honor those children, that we actually mark these events with some kind of meaningful symbolic gesture. And we see that with the lowering of the flag and people debating on whether to go back up. But that's a meaningful symbolic gesture. And we need more of those until we find the action that needs to happen moving forward. And that is, one of those is the proper building of memorials.
Right.
Another, establishment of an organization like former Aboriginal Healing Foundation.
Let me ask you this as well, just because I'm limited by time. I don't want people to think I'm interrupting you, but I want to get a few points out there. And that is that during this election campaign, it's only 36 days. It's the shortest that it could possibly be. It was called on August 15th. On August 31st, the AFN held your Healing Path Forward, helped us to digest the issues that you thought were central to this campaign. And then what role do you feel you have played in not bringing these issues to the fore every day and making them central to some of the discourse that we've been hearing? I'm wondering if there's any accountability on the AFN as well.
Well, I did say this in another interview, actually. There are 600 chiefs across this country. There are many, many grand chiefs in all of the regions. And it's incumbent upon all of us to do this. We all have to talk about it. We all have to do the media work. And certainly, we have been doing our part for sure. Every day we are tweeting about the election, multiple tweets, multiple social media. The fact that the mainstream media isn't always picking this up, I think, is the bigger problem. And that's an ongoing problem in Canada, that when a major event is happening for First Nations people, the mainstream media isn't always there to report it and to be that interface with regular Canadians. And a good example of that is when I went to the East Coast and was on a fishing boat with Mi'kmaq fishers, they were harassed by the DFO. But we found no mainstream media on the boat with us. We had one reporter, and that was the APTN, plus a live video that I shared. So I think that when you want to talk about accountability, then let's talk about the mainstream media and making sure that there's space for us. Yeah. That these stories are reported on every day. You have a responsibility as well.
I will tell you, we normally do an interview that lasts about 4 minutes. We've given you 6 today. So I just want to be clear about the fact that, you know, as a public broadcaster, yes, we have a role and a responsibility. And I feel that by increasing that time today, we are making that step forward. I have one final question for you, Chief, and that is, with just 5 days away until the election, how do you think the turnout for Indigenous voters is going to be, considering the fact that there has not been that focused discourse on Indigenous issues?
I have been encouraging people to vote. We have been encouraging people to vote. There are a number of groups out there who are promoting the vote, people like Tanya Cameron and Kenora. I know that's a party-based kind of rock the vote for the NDP, but there are people across this country encouraging First Nations to vote, and it is important for First Nations people to vote. We can influence this election in many ridings across this country, and I believe that people will get out and vote, because we're used to not having the media tell our stories, by the way. Yep. And it hasn't stopped us from voting in the past, and we're going to continue to do that.
Okay, I want to thank you for your time. I know you have many messages for Canadians who are watching across the country on, as I say, CBC News Network. Is there something you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I want to say that I really appreciate all of our allies, and I continue to ask our allies to stand with us. Ask these candidates what they're going to do about reconciliation. How are they going to chart this healing path forward that we all need? It's up to regular Canadians to press their government, to press the candidates, and to continue to advocate and stand shoulder to shoulder with us. And that's my ask, and I believe that many are joining this call. So miigwech for the interview. I really appreciate it.
And you take care. Be well, Chief. I appreciate your time as well.
Take care. Bye-bye.
National Chief RoseAnne Archibald of the Assembly of First Nations.